If you're like a lot of my clients or people inside of my community that I've talked to, you might be wondering what the heck to do when your family and friends don't support your business, right? And there's a lot of different ways that this can look of what it looks like to be supportive or not to be supportive. And this is a question that I have been hearing since I started mentoring other photographers almost a decade ago. I guess actually it was a decade ago. Time is a thief, isn't it? Time goes so fast. Anyway, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. My name is Elizabeth Henson. I am your host, and here we specialize in helping people do what they love and make a living doing it. I have a special approach where we combine community-based marketing and leadership to help people start and build their businesses. We want you to be able to build a powerful community so that marketing is easy. So let's dive into this kind of touchy, juicy topic of what to do when your family and friends don't support you. The first thing I would want to ask if I were your coach is, how do you know they don't support you? Is this fact? Or is it possible that you're making an assumption because they're being quiet, right? A lot of times people don't know how to support you, or they feel awkward, or they feel weird. So they just choose not to talk about it. And sometimes people are quite rude and don't actually support your business. So step number one is just to be sure that you have the facts and that you're not relying on just your feelings. Okay. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of like how to actually combat this. But I do want to say, I have been very lucky that my family has been very supportive. Their support doesn't always look like them listening to every single podcast episode or sitting in the front row of my events, right? That would be crazy for me to actually expect them to do that, especially when most of them don't have businesses or have, even an inkling of an understanding of what it's like to be an online business owner to do what I do, right? But I just know energetically that they are supportive or neutral, and neutral's okay too, right? But luckily, no one in my family has ever really said anything offensive. But I want to be perfectly honest with you too, that like I'm not looking for that. Like I'm not looking for evidence of people that don't support my business, right? Now, I did post something recently that was ironic, and we're going to talk about this more next week when I do the debrief of our 200th episode promotion. So, you guys know the Messy Success Podcast is like where I really spill the tea on all the behind the scenes of my business, and we just wrapped up a 2-week promotion celebrating hitting the 200 episode milestone of our podcast, and I cannot wait to debrief with you because I just feel like I learned a lot about the marketing landscape. But I mentioned that because I did post something on Facebook about how this promotion specifically, where I'm kind of celebrating myself, my business, my team, brought more unsubscribes on my email list than any other promotion. Now, most people reading that just read it as, oh, like, she's kind of cranky about people not supporting her. That wasn't it at all. It was more, I was looking at it as a social experiment of how women, we are taught by society, not to brag, right? And not just women, everyone. We're taught not to brag about ourselves and not to um, say out loud our achievements. And why I found this to be such an incredible social experiment is like it kind of proved that like people don't like it when we celebrate ourselves. But here's why. It's because it's confronting to them, right? So I would imagine the people that unsubscribed because I was celebrating the 200th episode of my podcast that have not unsubscribed, getting a weekly email up to this point is like, it was a reminder to them of whatever their dream was that they haven't taken action on, or a milestone that they feel like they might never hit. It's a mirror moment for them, right? it's most of the time not like, oh, I just don't like her, right? They probably would have unsubscribed a long time ago if they just didn't like me for who I am or my values or my business. But it was specifically the celebration promotion that they found to be like confronting or whatever. Maybe they just, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to make assumptions and tell myself stories and make it mean anything, right? But I wanted to share that publicly with my Facebook audience because it's a societal issue, right? It's a societal issue that we are not celebrating one another. And that's really all that I wanted to say is like, hey, a lot of us have been saying that this is a society issue. And here's like a little bit of data to show that people get cranky when we celebrate ourselves, right? Or annoyed or whatever it might be. I personally don't care. I've moved so far past attaching meaning to what people think or say about me. That's always a work in progress, so I'm not going to say it's perfect. Not opening up the comments for you guys to say anything hateful. um, but it's a society thing, right? And I just want to be part of breaking that mold for anyone that might be paying attention to what I'm doing, and that we should celebrate ourselves. In fact, I have an entire podcast episode that shows why and the neuroscience behind the more we celebrate ourselves, the more we attract to celebrate, right? If you, it's gratitude. The more things you have to be grateful for, the more things you attract to be grateful for. And celebrating each little milestone does the same thing. It invites more things to celebrate. So when I say that I'm not personally looking for data of people who are not supporting me, I'm not actually seeing and noticing the people that don't support me, right? That was like a one-time thing where I looked and compared because I wanted to see the data. But in general, I am not looking or paying attention to anyone that is, not engaging, not interacting, thinking negatively of me. I used to get really stuck in that loophole of like, oh my God, I just had lunch with this person and they unfollowed me on Instagram. I still don't think that's cool, by the way, but I used to attach so much meaning to that, right? It means they don't like me when they may have a totally different story or narrative or whatever it might be. So I wanted to lead with that in this topic of you having people in your family or your friends who may not be supporting your business. Are you looking for evidence of that, right? And where can we start to look for evidence of the people that do support your business? Because I have been saying on here over and over, I will show up even if it's for one person. The same way I'll show up for 100. And to me, that's enough to know that I'm helping one person. And the rest don't matter. And if I offend or annoy 9 to reach the 1, I'm okay with that, right? Because I'm not placing stories and meanings of what they're believing about me to be true, right? Only I get to decide that narrative. All right. So that's really step number 1 is like, don't look for evidence of the people that don't support you. Start looking for evidence of the people that do, or ones that are neutral. Neutral's fine too. Do I want all my friends to be cheering me on? Of course I do. Or sharing and liking my posts? Of course, we all do, right? But neutral does not mean that they're not supportive. They may just not know what to say or not understand what we're doing. Okay. And you can get a lot of really interesting feedback from the people that are closest to you, because if they're like, hey, I see you post on Instagram all the time and like, I'm really confused as to what you do. That's an opportunity to like bring down your marketing language. One of my favorite things to do is to put something in ChatGPT and say, hey, can you rework this so that a 5th grader would understand? Because when I talk about mindset work and neuroscience and self-development, I am talking about it from someone who's already lived and experienced so much of it And somebody who's brand new or not in my realm at all is not going to understand all of that language, right? So when we can simplify it so that, a fifth grade reading level can truly understand what we're saying, you might be able to get your friends and family to have a little bit more of an understanding. So, well, a lot of times when I'm talking to friends or family, I'm just like, oh, I'm a business coach. I help people do what they love and make a living doing it. And that really is like so high level, simple of what I do. Or I help people start businesses. I help moms work from home and make money and be there when their kids get off the bus, right? I talk about it in a very matter of fact, simple way. I'm not going to talk to my cousin and say, I help people build communities around their business so that it's easy and profitable. Right? There's a lot of different places that we want to use different language to meet people where they're at. Okay. So no more assuming that people aren't supporting you. Now, if they are, in fact, your spouse is like, I don't want you to invest money to learn. This is a bad idea. You're not going to make any money. If you are in a situation where they are, in fact, not supportive, because that does happen. I'm not trying to minimize and say that that doesn't happen. Here's what I want you to do. And I did this exercise with someone yesterday and it worked beautifully. Okay. I want you to think about your dream and your mission 5 years from now as if it's already accomplished. Okay. So you've already built it. You've already said, F everyone who didn't believe in me. I did it anyway. Okay. So you're already on the other side of having achieved that. I want you to think about how that version of you, that CEO version of you, would communicate to their spouse or to their loved ones about their business, right? That's going to look wildly different than when it's just in the idea phase, right? I am someone who's on the other side of building the business. I've built it. I'm making more money than I ever have. I'm making more money than I made in corporate, that I made teaching. So I can speak about what I'm doing from this matter of fact place of power and data and fact. Okay. When we're just starting out, it's a dream, it's a vision, it's an idea, and people are slower to buy into something that they can't see with their eyes. So I want you to think about the version of you who's already accomplished it. Maybe you're on stage. How would you talk about your business to someone? It's going to be wildly different, right? So when you have these conversations with someone who's not supporting you, if you need their buy-in, if you don't need their buy-in, then who cares? Like, you get to decide the filter of what's true and not. Talk about that in a second. But if you do need their buy-in, let's say this is a spouse and you kind of need to compromise on making a big investment, I want you to bring to the table that 10 out of 10 certainty energy of that version of you that's already accomplished it. Okay. And I know that's hard to do because you're like, but I can't see it either. I'm not really sure. How sure are you that you want to do this? And if that is a 10 out of 10, bring that successful CEO power to the conversation and bring some negotiating tools, right? Bring something that you're willing to sacrifice that costs the same amount. That will let your spouse know that you are serious. I made a big investment one time and I rationalized it by saying, if I need to sell my Toyota Highlander, I will, because that's how bad I want this. And I will go carless if I need to follow this dream, right? And that was kind of my own self rationale. I don't even think I had that conversation with my partner because he'd probably be like, we're not selling the Highlander. But for me, I knew that meant that I was serious because I was willing to put that on the table as a negotiation tool, right? So you have to be serious and you have to believe in it. And the people around you are going to believe in it to the extent that you do. And if they don't, and they're being negative, you have to be the one to bring that vibration up, not allowing them to bring the vibration down, if that makes sense. Okay. So now let's talk about how to filter the information when people are saying mean or unsupportive things. Okay, this is my favorite example that I use all the time. But if someone was to say, "Hey, you're purple," you wouldn't think anything of it because you know you are not, in fact, purple, right? But if someone says, "Hey, I don't think this idea is going to succeed. I don't think starting a business is right now. I think you should pursue corporate." There's part of your brain that is fearful that they are correct. And that's why you're giving more energy and more power to that than if they said they're purple. So what you have to do is you have to do that self-work to get yourself into 10 out of 10 delusional believing in yourself, believing in what's possible, so that when someone looks at you and says that's not possible, you're hearing it no differently than if they're calling you purple. And that takes time and that takes inner work, but it is in fact possible, and it will change everything and it will expedite how successful you are. And I've been doing this since I was a kid. I don't talk about this much, but I played field hockey through middle school, high school, and college. And I played for a really great Division I national championship college team. And I remember when I was in high school and I started saying out loud the schools that I wanted to play at. I remember telling a referee in our area, or maybe it was the coach of another team. I think it was the coach of another team. Either way, it was someone who'd like been in the field hockey world in my area for a long time. She was very well respected. And she was like, "Where do you want to play in college?" And I said, "I want to play at either UNC or ODU." And she goes, "Oh, even my girls can't play there." So yeah, it was another coach. "Even my girls can't play there." The way she said that, right? Because she was coaching a significantly better team than the one I was on. And it just fueled the fire for me. Like there was no part of me that believed that to be true enough that I should stop trying at least, right? I just was like, what does she mean? Like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing to be seen by these coaches. And yeah, I just chose not to believe it in that moment. It was like it didn't even make it through the filter system. And I've been doing that my whole life in all these different ways. And, I'll give thanks to my parents for raising me to be delusional and seeing that I can accomplish anything I put my mind to, right? And I know not everyone has that. So some of us have to rewire more than others. So that was an area that I didn't have to do as much rewiring as somebody who was raised by parents who, beat them down or told them what they couldn't accomplish. Or maybe they just didn't show them enough of what they could. So they're going to have more rewiring to do in that area than I did. Okay. I had rewiring to do in other areas like people pleasing. We all have our things that we have to rewire our brain to be able to function at a higher level. Okay. So that's my advice to anyone who has family or friends that don't support you is A of all, is it true or is it an assumption? B of all, what are you making it mean about you or about what's possible? And then 3, it is up to you to bring that 10 out of 10 certainty to the table because they're going to believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. Okay. My camera's blinking. All right. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I did just finish a book I wanted to share with you. Speaking of all of this mind work, so this is the Jeremy Renner book, My Next Breath. And oh my gosh, so good. There's some really good real life examples in there of how to use your brain to control your body and what's possible for you. So highly recommend. Just wanted to leave that with you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this was helpful. Please connect with me on Instagram, Elizabeth.Henson. Let me know if you enjoyed this. If it was helpful, bring it back. And leave us a review on iTunes or share this episode with a friend. Thank you so much for pushing play today.